The time, read your contract, backfired regarding holiday pay. Back in 2015 I worked for a pretty dismal call center. It was an outsourced center that handled customer support for a lot of UK retailers. Staff turnover was real high, with the vast majority being on temporary contracts and the promise of a permanent contract being hung over people's heads to make them suck up being treated like crap. After working there for about 2 years, in late February of that year I was offered a permanent contract because they wanted to put me on their team leader program. The pay was slightly better. The job security was better. The only major difference was how holidays were handled. People on temporary contracts were paid for any unused holidays at the end of the working year in April. People on permanent contracts had to use their holidays or they would lose them. I had just over 3 weeks holidays saved up. So the day I accepted I booked 3 weeks of in March so as I wouldn't lose them in April. March rolled around and my manager told me that my holidays had been refused. I said that's fine as long as they pay me for them. And he replied that no, if you don't use your holidays you lose them. I said that I was trying to use my holidays and they were not letting me. He shrugged, said it's the duty of the employee to manage their holiday time wisely and I should read my contract, despite the fact I had only gotten that contract 3 weeks earlier and the holidays worked differently. Understandably annoyed that evening I went home and read my contract from beginning to end and discovered my manager had overlooked one crucial part of the paperwork. The contract clearly stated I had to give a week's notice, and that any holidays not used would be paid to any leaving employee in full on their last paycheck. The next day I came into work and announced I would be quitting unless paid my holidays or allowed to take the time off. And if they accepted my notice then to be sure my holiday days was included in my final paycheck. My boss asked me if I was really going to quit over this. And I replied, was he really going to lose one of his most reliable employees over this? He wouldn't budge. I assume he thought I was bluffing. So I handed in my notice. And on my leaving interview with my manager's manager made sure to explain exactly why I was leaving. And yes, my final paycheck did include my unused holiday days. The end. Are you really going to quit over this? I would quit if you stole 1 day of pay from me. You want to steal 15 and think I would be good with it? Quote. Would they fire you if you stole an office phone? You bet yeah. Not sure why they thought you wouldn't quit if they stole 2 weeks of your paycheck. As if a call center is a highly coveted job, lol.
100% the best move in this situation.
They fucked around. They found out. JFC, why is it always call centers that try to play these sketchy games with people's pay and PTO? Then they all wonder why they're short-staffed. Are you really going to quit over this? Well, would you fire me for stealing from the company? Because you're stealing 15 days' wages from me. I had a similar situation with a non-profit that was run incompetently. Only 6 days were supposed to roll over to employees each year. But they never allowed anyone time off. And the CEO would decide to roll everything over year after year, rather than deal with the problem. Long story short, I ended up with 6 weeks of PTO after 3 years. And they suddenly decided I couldn't roll it over. With only 4 weeks left in the year to even use it. I asked for a raise to help offset the loss, which they accepted. As soon as the raise went through, I quit, and took it all 6 weeks in my last paycheck at the higher rate for Christmas. Lol. I had something similar happen to me. But it wasn't the holiday pay in dispute. It was the holiday itself. I was promoted to assistant manager at Subway about 15 years ago. By the way, Subway is a horrible company and I advise no one to work there unless they're desperate. I was planning a trip overseas at the end of that year. My trip was booked in far in advance. Tickets purchased. Hotels paid for. Everything. I was excited and spent literally 3 months discussing the trip with my seagull of a manager. You know, the type to fly in, crap all over everything and then fly out. 2 weeks and 1 day before my flight, my manager told me that I couldn't go on my holiday. Apparently you're meant to submit a request for leave 2 weeks before you leave. I asked her where the forms were and promptly filled one out. This was the first time any such forms had ever been mentioned in a year of working there. She said it's too late. I told her my flight is in 2 weeks and 1 day, so it's fine. My last shift before the flight I came ready 'cause I expected her to pull some shit. And sure enough, she showed up before closing and told me my request for leave had been denied 2 days before my flight, and that I'd have to stay here over the holiday period. Turns out she just wanted to go on vacation and thought she could fuck me over to do it. I said, no worries. Here you go. Reached into my pocket and pulled out a letter of resignation. You're resigning over this? After all I've done for you? She promptly tore up my letter and told me I couldn't. I pulled out another letter. She tore that up. I went to the office and pulled another out of the desk drawer. I printed 50 copies and hid them around the office. Do y'all wanna have a treasure hunt to find them all? Quote. She asked why I was doing this. I told her that she'd been milking me for all the work I could do. She kept convincing me to pick up extra shifts, sometimes doubles, by saying, it'll be extra money for your trip. And she has the gall to try and screw me out of it at the last minute. What did she think would happen? Apparently she thought I'd give up a trip I'd already invested thousands in for a shitty McJob. Well, she was wrong. Let's say a week's pay is $500, so the total would be $1,500. Who would not quit over having $1,500 stolen from them? You should read the contract. Someone who clearly didn't read the contract. Great story op. Maybe add how you have been since you quit your job. To not make people worry about you not having a job. The fact that your ex-boss took their time to tell you it hadn't been approved is so wrong, trying to manipulate you in that way. In the Australian business I work for, they usually tell you within a few days of applying whether it's been approved, and I've never had a leave request rejected. Weak form from them. Call centers are just so rough. Manager. You have to use your vacation time or you lose it. Op. Okay, I'll use it less than dates here before it expires. Manager. No. You can't use your vacation time. Op. Okay. I quit. Pay my time out. Manager. Surprised Pikachu face. Are you really going to quit over this? Are you really going to lose an employee over this? Nice job. Op. Fuck companies and managers that screw with people's time off. Fuck call centers and the people who run them. Sometimes unions are great. My manager was totally abusing me. When I asked to take Mardi Gras off, my manager was about 80 miles away and responded via email that if I wanted the day off, I should quit. I forwarded this to my union rep. Turned out I had been assigned 6 times the workload of a similarly paid person. At that point I had 300 hours of vacation coming. My union steward filed a grievance which became a national grievance and affected all of the USA. Now, if a person has accrued a lot of vacation hours, and a manager refuses to grant the employee vacation when requested, it became mandatory that the assigned workload had to be reviewed by both upper management and the union. In other words, If you earned the vacation hours, you get to take them. Similar situation for me lead to my quitting. The company I was working for dumped the entire paid time off balance into your account 2 weeks after your hire date anniversary. So everyone knew exactly when their PTO would be available and would request time off well in advance. Even though, technically, the PTO hours weren't even in their account yet. We had 100 to 200 security guards at this company. So you really had to request time off way in advance or it would get denied. The contract comes first, bullshit. My PTO balance always hit my account in May. So in like January 2014 I requested time off in June, July to go on a cruise with family in the Mediterranean. They begrudgingly approved my request, then decided to change the rules. They made it so that in order to request time off you had to have at least the same amount in your account balance already. So in 2015, I had to wait until May before I could put in for PTO. By then, the waiting list was already into January 2016. I was 100% going to Africa in July, August, and so instead of putting in PTO, I filed a 2-week notice of resignation. I was moving to the Caribbean. Lol. My trip was fucking amazing and that job sucked ass anyway. Fuck em. I replied, was he really going to lose one of his most reliable employees over this? It's a call center. These guys have like 100% yearly turnover.
Nice.
Did your contract have any limits on the amount of PTO you could use at once? People quit managers, not jobs. Reapply for the open position, lol.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.